sit in our offices and they think through this and try to gather more information from the archives. But asking any one of the people in this room about things which happened 25 years ago.
Procedure Chair, let him complete, then you can come in.
They may not give an appropriate answer that should come from the central bank.
But was the valuation done at that time, now that you're involved in the whole process? Was the valuation done? If it was not done, you cannot go and do valuation now. Madam Lego, you're not the one supposed to give information to him. Have respect for this committee. You don't whisper just like that. Was the valuation done?
Chair, still I want to request that if evaluation was done, it will be found. Sure. If it wasn't done, we'll come back and report to this committee that there was no valuation. But what I remember was done. The biggest asset of the bank are the loans. In this evaluation, the inventory or status report, as it is called.
The evaluation we are talking about is for the loans.
The loans were reclassified by the Bank of Uganda. And indeed, in this inventory report, you see that the Bank of Uganda recommended additional loan loss provisions, about 120-something million, which is on record in the status report. That is the process of valuing loans. If a loan is not performing, they are valued by a standard procedure of classification. So that is one way of valuing. And the biggest assets of the bank.
The classification of the provisions is dependent on how long the loan is being. Yes. How long the default is being taken.
Yes.
Not because of the valuation. We are asking, when you handed over these files to the solicitor auctioneers, did you do the valuation for you to know what you're handing over, how much you're handing over?
Chair, that is what we want to find. If it happened 25 years ago.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable Bala.
Mr. Chairman, I'm perturbed by the answers given by the bank, by Bank of Uganda, especially Mr. Sekabira. First of all, he's saying, he's not telling us whether the valuation was done or not. He actually is economical in terms with his words. There should be a reason as why he's doing that. Number two, he's requesting us that they should be allowed to go back to craft risk process. I don't know what crafting means in this case.
No, I think we take it, crafting can have two meanings. The negative one, the positive one. Now, which one? And for purposes of this discussion, I don't think he intended to have that negative one. It was like, let me go back and we can. Yeah, so let us not dwell so much with that, colleagues. Yes, the Honorable Engineer, Mwijuche. Oh, sorry, Engineer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
There could have been many engineers, though one engineer had already assumed this. Please.
I just want to ask a simple thing. Does the officers in the bank think it was necessary anyway to make the evaluation? Because you may be asking for something they think was not necessary. Do they think it was necessary to make this evaluation?
Gentlemen, what you do, you just note down, then at some point you respond.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in respect to the matter we are dealing with, if you look at the letter that we have just been given of 2nd November 1993, the second paragraph, I think line 4 says, attached is our inventory of the bank's assets. This is the governor writing to the minister. So in essence, the inventory was there. It was, how now it becomes lacking, how it becomes a list of some other sorts, yet it was provided, and I am trying to understand this. I can't understand it, Mr. Chairman. Maybe I need to be helped.
There is a document. Bank of Uganda says it is an inventory. That very document is being referred to by the Auditor General as an examination report. So there is a document. It's asked to interpret whether that document meets the criteria of an inventory report. Meaning, is it a true reflection of the assets and liabilities of Tefe, was it Tefe Trust? Tefe Trust Bank, taken over by Bank of Uganda. I think that basically that's what we are looking at, nothing else at this point. At this point. So it's not like there is no inventory. There is a document which Bank of Uganda says this is our inventory. The Auditor General is saying, yes, it does not meet the criteria because it is lacking A, B, C, D. It is an examination report. Now we're going to the substance of that document, and one of the things which the Honorable Anita Among was asking was their evaluation, so that we know what assets and liabilities were taken over by the bank. Mr. Sekavira says when you look at this, you could see even bank looked at the loans, and some of them, to use his word, you did what? They were reclassified, meaning, to put it in layman's language, they analyzed them, they valued them, then they reclassify them. And I think that's the point he was making. That is assuming I'm following the proceedings correctly, and I think I am. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is coming at the backdrop that there was a time the Bank of Uganda was telling us that there is no inventory. Maybe after some crafting, something is coming up, and that's what the Auditor General is saying. This is not an inventory. Yet in this letter, an inventory was provided at that time.
Before Honorable Bala comes in, let me say this. At the beginning, Bank of Uganda, Governor, you are not as organized maybe as you are today. Because you could see the responses that we got in that first meeting, which forced us to say, no, go and organize yourself. And when they came back with a different response, where we had a little bit of, again, argument. Then they went back and came back with what the governor said yesterday was a final one. So he used a polite word that they were updating. I think at the beginning there was a little bit of a problem, the way I see it. So let us take it as it is now. Going back, it will not help, because actually there was a problem at the beginning of this process.
But let's read this letter up to the end of the paragraph. Maybe you can ask them to read it.
Read it, just read it, Honorable Major.
Attached is our inventory of the bank's assets. We will be advising the depositors of our plans for meeting their deposit claims. The unresolved status of our depositor funds continues to cause adverse speculation as to the condition of other banks.
What is the question?
So the advising the depositors of our plans of meeting the deposit claims. So you look at the claims the depositors, the plans at that time. So my thinking is that there is something fishy around this.
No, I think let's do this. Let us.
Chair,
No, just one second. Let us not come to any conclusion. We come to the conclusions at the end of the process. Yeah, let us not come to any conclusion.
Chair, just a quick one. Mr. Sekabira, can you look at your listing, the inventory listing? When you look at the item customer stools that were valued at 1,300,000, still on inventory.
Page, it's asking the page, get from the page.
Page 7. When you look at that figure, the book value of the office chairs was 1,322.
Let me finish.
So, do you want to tell me that's what you took in your books of accounts, in your assets? Because my presumption is the valuation should have been done at the time when you're taking over, for you to get the net worth of what you're taking over.
Mr. Chairman, was that not under classified?
Now, if you're taking that book value, and remember this was bought in 1989, does it show you the true picture of what you took over?
Chair, I see that this inventory has book values. I also know that when you look at the solicitor auctioneer's report back to Central Bank, he listed items that he was able to sell, I think through an auction. Some of these things were sold through an auction.
Who was supposed to do the valuation, solicitor or yourself?
And again, Chair, I reiterate my request that if we go back, we'll be able to find the process that Bank of Uganda went through to selling stools, office desks, and chairs. Did they instruct the auctioneer to sell after valuation by Bank of Uganda, or the auctioneer supposed to value before auctioning? All this will be found. If we can't find it...
No, I'm asking you a general question. I am now not talking about TEFE. Who is supposed to do the evaluation? Is it you, the institution, or the person who is going to do the selling for you?
For such assets, the Bank of Uganda usually uses a third party for physical assets to value them, like motor vehicles and chairs. A third party valuer will be appointed by the bank to value.
So did you appoint a valuer to do valuation?
I cannot at this point be conversant about what happened 25 years ago. That's why.
So now you're confirming that it's Bank of Uganda through its third party that does auctioneer, who does valuation before the responsibility is given to an auctioneer. Is that correct?
Chair, the natural process I've seen and recently is the Bank of Uganda will appoint a valuer. The valuer will generate a report of values for the different assets of the bank. That report will be kept by the bank.
Yes.
They will also appoint somebody to auction. The auctioneer will sell or will get bids and say, I have a car here for which the highest bidder is 10 million. Bank of Uganda will first give approval to that because they have a valuation report. So that process has been deployed in some banks. I'm not sure what happened in 25 years ago in TEFE. And Chair, I want to still request that we find it. We're given time to find
Mr. Chairman, as a matter of procedure, we had requested that the Bank of Uganda come here with solicitor auctioneers, because solicitor auctioneers are directly involved in this particular transaction, and every moment we raise these issues, we make reference to them. I had also asked, and I had also moved, and we asked Bank of Uganda to come with the particular individuals that were involved in these transactions at the time. Whereas I feel for people who are speaking after 26 years ago, to be exact, today being November. However, I think that doesn't take away the responsibility to look for your people.
I think you don't explain so much. The point is taken. Just try to ask a direct question and we give some.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I am not asking a question. I raised a procedural issue, whether we are proceeding properly without Bank of Uganda, in particular the governor, telling us where solicitor auctioneers and those particular individuals who participated in these transactions are, even upon your instruction that they come with them.
The point is, first of all, the law requires any public office holder to account even when he is no longer in the office. That's the law. The handicap the bank is pleading, and Mr. Sekabera has put it, that except him, but him was even a low-ranking officer in the bank. None of you were there. So my colleague is asking, can we have the people or responsible officers who were in those offices to help us answer these questions? I think that's the point. And let me see what our colleagues are saying before I make a ruling. Yes, do you know Vincent?
When we look at valuation, I think in government institutions, the person who sanctions valuations is the chief government valuer. Would it be, was he involved?
That's another point.
Perhaps write to him to find out from the records.
Listen, you see, that will come later. Who did the evaluation, blah, 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 and so on. But what we are looking at was an evaluation. I think that's the point now. Honorable Sheila?
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the fact that the liquidator was outsourced, this liquidator must have had terms of engagement which include a document that spells out what they are going to handle. I expect that they must have been given an original listing of what had to be liquidated, hence the return of what was not sold. So solicitor is very important. We would like to have solicitor here, if solicitor can be present, and also their terms of engagement as the auctioneer.
You just need to read the letter of engagement. It's quite brief, it does not go into any of those details actually. But the most important thing is to have solicitor here. Yes, the Honorable Michael Tosime, then Honorable Yandala.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, at this point, that particular issue we are talking about regarding valuation is actually provided for subsequently as we move on. I wanted to point out that at this particular time, when the Bank of Uganda was required to make an inventory, they could not have carried out valuation. They ought to have carried out valuation at the time when they were handing over to the auctioneer. So this report they made, which actually qualifies, as the Auditor General says, as an examination report, stated book values of what had been secured for advances of those loans. Now, the valuation should have been done later. They were giving a position of the bank as per 17th of February. Now, valuation should have, actually when you look at the instrument of engagement, which copy colleagues may not have right now, they actually state it. They say the auctioneer should enforce collection and advances given to customers and properly go through legal steps of liquidation. But further to that, they also say that the auctioneer, liquidation of the Trust Bank Limited, should be legally and properly carried out, and to the whole exercise should yield maximum collections from tangible assets, loans, overdrafts, and advances to customers. This will not only offset some of the losses already incurred by Bank of Uganda, but also show the public the extent of seriousness the central bank attaches to prudence and soundness in the banking sector. My understanding here, when you say the liquidator should follow all legally viable avenues to yield maximum collection, it goes without saying that you provide a value at valuation that the auctioneer should base on. So, Chairman, my thinking is that at this particular point of this matter raised by the Auditor General, we can probably proceed to the next stage, because the Auditor General is saying the distinction between what ought to have been an inventory, and it's a mixture of the two. It shows a statement of the time, and at the same time it serves as an inventory, because actually by that act of 1969 there was no legal requirement for an inventory. So I want to suggest that, because as you said, us as a subcommittee, this is part of our work actually. We looked at these documents, and this issue of valuation is provided for in the subsequent pages
of the analysis. Okay, let's proceed this way. One, Governor, when you go back, may you look through your records, and then whenever you are coming, to get the responsible officers who are in those offices to accompany the bank. If you need our help, we'll do it, because we are closed with some authority which can compare them in case it reaches that level. But you need to invite them, say we are going through this process, you are the people responsible from our record, please accompany us to the parliamentary hearings throughout. And I think that sorts out what the Honorable Medad Lubega was saying.
No, okay. Madam, Mr. Chairman, I think the present staff must ensure or endeavor to go into the archives. A man comes here after 20 years, he says, I don't know what you do. I don't remember. They should go in the archives and find out whether those things are there or not. No,
that's true, the Honorable Andara. There are things they will get in the archives. There are things they may not get in the archives. And if somebody was in the office, he can be able to explain. Now let me give you an example. We've been talking about these variations and so on. They could go in the archives and start looking for a document which is actually not there. Yet, if there was an officer who was responsible at the time, can say, actually, we never did the variation. So those are two different.
Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, what I'm saying, this committee is evidence-based. Let the officer come, tell us whether a thing was done or not done. And if it was done, where is it?
But
that's why they should go in the archives and look for them.
We are speaking the same language. The committee is evidence-based. That's why we require documents. Number two, even to know a particular activity, like was a variation done or not, if somebody was the one who was responsible for this activity, he would know and advise the colleagues, look for this report because it is there. We did a what? A variation. It would be a little bit easier. But that notwithstanding, the current officers have an obligation, because you take over these offices with obligations. The obligations are not shifting. You have the obligation to actually provide, because when we look at the governor, we don't know who's the governor there. but we are asking the governor these questions. I think we get, but no, on that one we've closed. We've made it they should come. Honorable Bala, relax. Honorable Cooper, let's, on that one we have made a ruling, Governor. Next time you are coming, please endeavor to come with the officers who were in those offices. If it requires our signature for summons in a case, we will do it. Not on that one. On that one,
on a procedural matter, Chairperson, Mr. Sekabira said he was there as a junior person and he participated. Because I know if there is a EDS, he does not do the nitty-gritty. It is always the ground troops who do that. So him being there at that level, he must have participated. That's why he's even in a better position to tell us whether evaluation was done or not. And he said it. He was there in that department, but as a junior person.
He said he doesn't remember. He wants to go back. After 25 years, it's possible you don't remember. So let's do this, colleagues. And actually, the advantage we have with this process, if Mr. Sekabia was there 25 years ago and is still there today, he has that memory. He should be able to assist, even in identifying so and so was the one in charge of this, something like that. He could be more useful this process. Mr. Sekabia, you would be more useful this process as we go along. So, where he doesn't remember but he needs to refer to a document and he wants time to go and look for it, we'll give him. I want us to proceed. Okay, Honorable Tungo, but afterwards we are proceeding, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry?
Engineer raised a question. He has not been answered to Mr. Sekabira. That in his view, does he feel that evaluation is necessary or not?
Okay, Mr. Sekabira.
Chair, I remember I responded to that question when I spoke about the procedure we use when selling bank assets.
Okay. In short, he's saying it is a requirement, it's necessary. Because they are going back, they'll come with this thing. Yes?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, before you suspended the meeting, I wanted a clarification, but as you guided yesterday, that we should be patient. I've been patiently waiting, Chair. And my clarification goes to the governor.
Such that the Honorable Viandala can hear what you are saying.
Chair, I want to get a clarification from the governor. Governor, I want to thank you for bringing the land titles.
No, you are yet to receive the report. Before you thank him, let's receive the report because Chair, we had referred them to the auditor.
Chair, me, I'm judging the book by its cover. I want to thank him. But Governor, I want to ask you, why have you taken over 25 years with those land titles? What are you doing with the land titles? Number two, assuming we are not invited you in this committee, how would the owners of those land titles know that you still have their land titles?
The question raised by the Honorable Nathan Itungo is pertinent. I would like the governor not to answer it now until we receive, please can you note it, until we receive a report from the auditor who has just been verifying to see whether actually they are the titles. Even your thanking was premature. But after we've received the report, then the Honorable Nathan Itungo can thank the governor.
Mr. Chairman, maybe the Auditor General should also go in the Ministry of Lands to see if there are no duplicates of other titles on the same piece of land.
We will come to that. Let's get the report from the Auditor General first.
Thank you, Chair. We've looked at all the titles. There are 23 of them. Actually, there are 24. 23 titles with one release. Now, we've noted a few typos which BOU should correct. There is a J. Kurukuku.
What are you saying? You noted which BOU should what?
A typo.
Small typos.
Typos?
Yes.
Okay.
The name is J. Kurukuku of Box 49 Mitiana. The block is 161. The plot should be 799, not 766. Number one. The first one, eh? No. The second one. Plot should be 799, not 766.
Are we looking at the same document? Because property, what is that?
Pepe Trust Bank in liquidation list of securities returned by Solesta auctioneers.
Red file.
The second one.
It's on the red file.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
The second one is Fire Block.
I don't have that one.
ZW Zerwabwe. The block should be 256, not 269. Plot 10, Buremezi.
Which one is that? Let me look at it.
The third one is Betsy Enterprises. The block should be 156, not 126. Then there are 6 promissory notes, but we don't see the amounts.
We are talking about land titles. You are talking about promissory notes.
Chair, we have verified a lot of these things. So what was in that box? We have looked at all of it.
No. Can I have the report on the land titles other than those typos? We don't want to waste time with the typos.
That is done. That's all.
Now, after that, we can go back to the Honorable Itungo's question. Have you returned the titles back?
Chair, we have given back the titles. We don't have them.
Do you acknowledge Bank of Uganda have gotten back the titles?
Come and use this. How many you have got? Whether you have received?
Have you received back your titles?
Honorable Chairman, we've received all the 23 titles and 1 release.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Itungo, and then I'm not seeing properly. Honorable Chira, can you go where and I see? Then Rose.
So,
Agnes.
Governor, good morning. Chair, now that we have the report, I think I can now officially thank the governor for bringing the land titles. But the governor, I have 2 questions for you. 25 years, what are you doing with people's land titles? Number 2, if you are not called in this committee,
but
what would be the fate of these titles?
I wouldn't have known they existed. I would not have known those that existed.
Well, the point, the bigger point is, from our colleagues, the governor, what we are doing with the titles, and the governor is saying his office or himself didn't know that the bank had those titles. I think that is it. And now that, because this 25 years down the road, These titles are within your safe.
Yes.
The process seems to be like it is concluded, yet it is not concluded. What is the fate of these securities you are holding of a defunct banker 25 years down the road?
If you permit me, Mr. Chairman, what does he intend to use them for? Because even in accordance with the law, they are no longer securities. You cannot enforce it.
No, but first, Mr. Chairman, the governor said he didn't know whether they were there. I don't know whether he was Professor Mtevire or he was the bank. Was it himself or the whole bank didn't know?
The governor didn't know.
So those who knew what, then they can answer.
I think we are going to go to the most fundamental question, then I come to you, Agnes. What the bank intends to do with these properties, which you still hold. And let me tell you why this is quite important. It's not all about TFF Trust Bank. Don't we have, even in other banks, a situation like that? We don't? Are you sure? Because we look at Greenland, is it the same? And we are going to interrogate that more. Cooperative Bank, Globetrother, or wherever it is. And today assets which were never sold but are still retained with the Bank of Uganda. And what do you intend to do with them? I think that's the bigger question.
And whether they are still legal. Because if we go in the midst of lands, I would be surprised if all of these are still looked at as being jailed in their records there.
And then the Honorable Yandala used to be KCC engineer, so he knows so much of what goes on.
No, I'm just using
Kampala.
I'm using common sense. I mean, you can see the way people are grabbing land.
That's it.
How can this be there for 25 years? And the governor doesn't know. Sekabira doesn't know. Other people must have already taken.
We are not going to assume who doesn't know. It's what we have on record is the governor's office didn't know. And we're going to interrogate that a little bit further with the responsible department.
Chair.
No, I'd pick some other person.
No, but the question has not been answered.
Chair.
They intend to use these titles for.
Chair, mine is also an addition to what engineer.
Is it related to that? Because there is a question which is on the table.
My concern is the land titles have been returned to Bank of Uganda. Why can't the Auditor General go and work with Ministry of Land to verify?
That we'll hand ourselves and see. What we need are photocopies of those land titles. Please forward them here. We'll know how to handle it thereafter. So, what does the bank intend to do with these properties? And I think that's legally.
Mr. Chairman, since the question you ask is about from a legal perspective, what Bank of Uganda will do with these titles, I would like to ask the Bank of Uganda Legal Counsel to address that question.
Counsel, here you are, your properties. It's not about TFA Bank, maybe it will be other banks. But this one, I think, before she comes in, don't we have properties of other institutions which you've failed to dispose of? Other banks?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so this is you call it what? Cross-cutting question. Because when we come to other banks, we'll not be raising it. It has been sorted out now. Counsel, microphone is yours.
Chair, but we need to verify.
What I knew you are not legal counsel for the bank.
No, even if I'm seated this side, I'm not. Chair, I was only saying, yes, your ruling is okay, but it will not stop us from verifying those properties. Yeah, it's a cross-cutting question, but it will not stop us from verifying.
We will. Okay. Bank of Uganda?
Thank you, Chairman. And through the Governor, the bank will take a decision on what to do at the final winding up of the Tefe Trust Bank.
What is the legal position as it is now?
The bank will take a decision at the final winding up of the bank.
You want us to interrogate your answer, Council, really? You want us to interrogate that answer?
No, Mr. Chairman,
What are the options, legal options available if you want me to interrogate your answer?
Now, Mr. Chairman, when I came to this committee, I was not prepared to answer that question. Maybe I have to go back and review and think through it, because now I feel like I'm being ambushed.
Mr. Chairman, I think this lawyer is not serious.
She's serious.
With all due respect.
Please.
She's not ready. What is
colleagues.
She's not ready. What is she doing
Let
here?
one person speak at a time.
If she says she's not ready to answer questions, what is she doing here?
Yes, General.
Thank you, Chair. Ambush is part of war. So, I know these land titles could have been secured by the bank as part of the loan system that was in place. And a loan always accumulates some interest with time. So what could be the value of these titles right now, depending on what happened at that time? Thank you.
Honorable Mwine, Honorable Nakaonde.
Thank you, Chair. Just maybe to help the legal counsel, at least Bank of Uganda should have put a caveat on these titles so that they are not, would you be aware of that, whether there's a caveat?
Mr. Chairman, now that we are dealing with land titles that were with Tefe, but I would request that our officers, when they are coming, when we are handling the other banks, they should come with the titles of the other institutions, because I have, my brother had an account with the Cooperative Bank, but when it was closed, he did not know anything about his land title. He's there, but he doesn't know whether it is still there. He doesn't know whether it is still with the bank. He did not know anything about where it went. So I would request that as they are coming back next time and when we are meeting the other institutions, then when we are dealing with the other banks.
Had he paid back the loan?
No, but he didn't know where to begin from.
Okay.
Because the bank was closed and he didn't know where to go, where to pay, where to get his land title back and all that.
Oh, okay, I think let us not lose out on the point. We are going to, before Honorable Vyandala comes in, and we're going to interrogate the issue of unrealized securities which are being held by the bank. I think that's the bigger question, and let us not lose focus on that, colleagues. So, Honorable Vyandala, then Honorable Cooper.
Mr. Chairman.
Do I have another hand this side? Yes, Honorable Bala.
Mr. Chairman.
Then we close this up.
The first one, maybe you educate me or whoever. These land titles we were talking about, now they belong to whom?
The question I had put before is the same question you are putting. What is the legal status? That's the question I put to
because if they are in the Bank of Uganda, they must be in somebody's responsibility. So somebody, all these 25 years, they must have been surfacing in the annual reports. And I'm really so worried that this officer denies the governor to know about these titles. So that's why your question is very good, that what is the legal status of these titles?
Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable Cooper.
Me, I'm only just disturbed by the response of the director legal that we have ambushed her. It reminded me at school when we went to sit for an A-level exam, the finals. And because of these people who think like the director, when he opened the question paper, when the time came to open the question paper, say, no, these are not the questions I'm supposed to answer. And disorganized us all in the classroom. So does the director intend to answer only the questions that have been raised by the Auditor General? Anything outside that, she's not ready to answer. She must be given the questions in advance. I found this disturbing and disrespectful of this committee, and very annoying.
I thought we agreed yesterday about annoyance and that we will restrain ourselves to get annoyed over anything. We can have another name. Yesterday we had patience. Tomorrow we can add on, we need to be Mr. Hippopotamus.
Mr. Chairman.
Meaning, if you may listen, meaning we need to have that thick skin to sail through this. So we'll go through this. But anyway, lawyers always have this problem. Sometimes he may not have addressed himself to the point being raised. And I think that's what she was saying, though she could have said it better. That was the point. I've not yet addressed legally myself to that point. But I don't know whether she even knew those securities were there. I don't know whether the department responsible had sought her advice on it. However, the beauty about this process is that there are things we are now even bringing to the attention of the bank, including the governor. That's the beauty about this process. I'm sure when they go back, they will like, oh, there is this problem which has arisen in Parliament. How do we handle it? And then she can go back to the statute books to give a legal opinion. As of now, she has not addressed her mind to it. Is that the point, or I am trying to misinterpret your statement?
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. That is my point. We need to do a legal evaluation. Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next time you put it simply like that and doesn't cause controversy.
Mr. Chairman, I normally read that the book called the Bible. There somewhere says in the prayer of Jesus, in our Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, Mr. Chairman, based on what you're saying and what the director legal was saying, in fact, she's tempting us, and she's actually leading us into temptations, and it's human. That's why we get disturbed a bit. Number two, the response she gave, it's actually an embarrassment to the bank and the committee. It's a real embarrassment. Recently, my professor one time told me, it is only the dirty people who have answered and say, I don't know. If you are alive, your answer should not be, I don't know. Meaning you must know. Yeah. That's why, Mr. Chairman, I am a bit disturbed with the response, and I would actually request the humble of chair that we request the legal officer to withdraw that statement, because in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, it's my opinion, my request. Because
let's proceed. As I said, let's proceed. We have to finish TEFE today.
Chair, there are two legal issues that we...
Yeah, what we would need when the bank governor, when you come back, will need a bank's position on that issue. I'm sure by that time your lawyers could have addressed themselves to the properties which you are holding, which of the banks, and you've already literally resolved them, their legal status and so on. May we proceed, colleagues? We have to finish TFA before we rise today.
No, it will come in the report, in the legal report.
Yes, can we go? The issue now, I'm sure it has been resolved. Governor and EDS, did you say, and legal counsel, please go sort out that and please come with a response. Next, EDS.
Chair, thank you, through the Governor. I noticed under Part 1 there were other issues raised by the Auditor General. One is cash at closure was 57.2 million, and the Auditor General is asking for evidence of cash count done at closure.
No, those who will, you'll come with them, okay. Because Minister Sekavira, yes, had said some of these things. They will go and craft the answers. Yes, go and craft the answers. I imagine crafting is a financial word in the Bank of Uganda. So do that. Let's go to, for example, adjusted financial positions as at 27th August to the table. You remember you said that when you closed the bank in February until November, there was the bank was closed. There was no business activity of the bank. And yet when you look at that table, you see some movement of assets. Are we together? So how could the assets have had this movement when the bank was closed? Colleagues, look at paper now of this 4-page paper number 3 at the back. Paper number 3 at the back. There is a table there. And the table is marked 2. Paper number 3 at the back and the table 2. Bank of Uganda told us yesterday that when they first closed and the time of the Mayanja and Kanji letter, yes, there was no movement at all. Now you can see there is some movement here. Isn't that what the Auditor General is raising?
Mr. Chairman, like Mr. Sekavira said, if you could just give us some time to go back and reconcile these figures. Because if you know...
But these figures were extracted from your own document.
Yes, they were extracted.
They are not Auditor General's figures. Yes, and do you find it a little bit contradictory to the position you had given yesterday? Somebody's hand is up.
Yeah, Secretary.
Through Governor, Chair, I want to give some tips.
To me?
Yes, tips to help all of us understand what is moving here. For example, On the day we entered, in terms of notes and coins, on the day we entered the bank on intervention in February, there was cash of 57.2 million. What happens when you intervene in a bank? You pull out the cash, you take it to Bank of Uganda and deposit it on an account. When you look at the borrowings from Bank of Uganda, at the bottom of that table, you see them reducing. So I want to think that this cash was deposited into the overdrawn account at Bank of Uganda, so you see a reduction in the overdrawn position. So these are things we can quickly reconcile and come back and give you reasons as to why these movements are happening. Similarly, on deposits, when you close a bank, you find it with some checks in transit, some things which are still moving. You conduct a special clearing 1 day or two after, sometime after the closure. So the special clearing generates certain movements in the deposits or loans, whatever happens. So, Chair, as I requested earlier, we need time to study this and can appropriately respond to these movements. But looking at the face of it, I understand where the movements are coming from.
Sorry?
Looking at the face of this table, I understand where the movements are coming from. But we need to support it with evidence.
Okay. Colleagues, Bank of Uganda is saying on this one there are differences, and the reason why it was raised because of the answer you gave yesterday. We go back, this thing about Celeste again, I hope you are coming with him on Monday.
Mr. Chairman, the gentleman of Celeste auctioneer actually died.
Mr. Chairman,
or was it
the company should be there.
Sole proprietorship?
The company should be there, Mr. Chairman. The man may be dead, but the company may be there.
So he passed on. Or when?
How do they find so many?
Is Celeste still there? Oh. You know, that's the problem. When I was reading some of your responses, you said we don't take a minute. We are going to come to that point, because I find it very awkward that somebody writes and says, for us, we have meetings and we don't take a minute, and you documented it as such. And can you imagine a situation where tomorrow you hold a meeting, hold a government asset in your head and you die? So you die with this government asset. But anyway, it is coming here for further interrogation. It's coming for further interrogation.
So, Mr. Can we say, just clarification, Chair,
titles before he died?
Chair, what do we get from this? Because they say, I don't know whether the proprietor or died, but is the company there, or what are we going to do about the solicitor?
Actually, when you look at the instruction, they instructed an individual. They need to instruct the company. An individual trading as solicitor.
Mr. Chairman, what normally happens, I think, to be open and honest, is normally these auctioneers are sole practitioners. We know as lawyers, normally it's just a one-man show, but we could still investigate and find out.
We are going to investigate. So we go back to the query now. This one of yesterday's verified document you have gotten what you want. What is remaining is please put those responses in writing. Okay? So let's go back to the second query, which was 2.2. Does it refer to Tefe Bank also? OICB? Yes.
Sure, I have some...
We seem to have... yes? You have been quite throughout. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've been actually following very well, but there is something which is still disturbing my mind, where I want to get clarified. Yesterday, we were told that the letter that was written to close the bank actually came from the minister. And we were told that, according to the law, it is Bank of Uganda which was supposed to do the closure. I've scanned through this file. I've not seen any communication from Bank of Uganda closing TEFE. So my question is, do we consider TEFE closed in the first place? The rest of the proceedings have been following very well, but I'm still not clear on that.
TEFE is closed. And closed by the minister, and the documentation we have is already here.
But sir, my query was that we are told that the minister had no powers to close. So
that we are going to interrogate. Okay. That we are going to. What we have is a directive to Bank of Uganda to close TEFE, which we have. These other things now about the land, so on, we are going to interrogate it. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yesterday we had the letter from the minister directing Bank of Uganda to close TEFE Trust Bank. But upon further search, the bank was actually closed by the central bank, and we have the governor's statement to the press. Whereas there is a statement of directing you, actually the substance of that letter was just an agreement, which is, like a no objection. And the letter of 2nd November, 6, a no objection. So we have a letter. It was the governor that closed the bank.
Please. On instruction. Please. The governor was directed, and he went ahead and closed.
And Mr. Chairman,
and the letter speaks for itself. You see, there should be no legal engineering in this.
I object to that.
There should be no legal engineering in this. We have a directive, it speaks for itself. It does not need even any legal interpretation. It is purely Queen's language. You just have gone to a good primary school to know what it is.
And the letter doesn't show anywhere that it was they were seeking for an objection.
No. Why are you reading letters into the minister's words into the minister's letter? Directive, actually. So, Governor, this thing does not augur well with us. We have documentation, you gave them to us.
Mr. Chairman, I remember...
When the chair is speaking, give him some opportunity, Mr. Bala. And which other letter? Let us even look at the closure, the one you are talking about. Where is it?
Chair, as she delivers that letter to you, Chair, I was only saying, as she delivers that letter, I would also request her to read the minister's letter. If she didn't understand, can she repeat?
Okay, where is it in the box file? Is it the letters which have been forwarded to us?
Then the file. Let her read. No, I mean the letter of the minister, which she did not understand.
Let her read hers. And the one for the minister, then we get to know.
Hey. What happened?
This is what I was telling you. Let them bring all these letters. They're now giving the status of the
Okay. This is what the legal counsel is giving. The minister's letter is which date? 4th November.
Yes.
This one is the 10th, and it's actually a press statement.
Chair,
isn't it? Please. It is a what? Can we have, because I don't have to waste time, can we have a legal instrument from the governor closing the bank other than the press release? Do you have it? You see, a closure is in accordance with the law. And you take an instrument, so by virtue of powers, and I've seen many of them actually signed by the governor. By virtue of powers entrusted to me under this law, I take this decision. And that is an instrument. After you've taken the decision, then you do a press release to inform the public that actually I have closed. The governor does not just act in the press. There should be an instrument. The only instrument we have now is actually that one of the minister, directing the governor. Then the governor goes ahead on the 10th to issue what? A press release. If you are doing things correctly, or if I was a legal counsel for the bank, I would have drafted an instrument for the governor to sign to close a bank, citing even the powers he's vested with of the law.
The problem,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
thank you very much. And the first one,
Mr. Chairman, sir. The basic problem is that this bank was acted on under two different laws. In the first action, the Bank of Uganda was not empowered to close the bank. This was under the old act of 1969.
How did that?
Up 1992, up 1993, the closing of banks was the duty of the Minister of Finance under the old act. Under the new act, after mid of 1993, the Bank of Uganda is authorized to be the single authority to close the bank. That's the problem. So we actually closed the Tefe Bank initially simply by stopping its operations administratively. No, it's not an invasion. We had the right to do certain things, like stopping of doing this, subject to that and that, and wanted to recapitalize the bank. So we asked them to stop operations pending recapitalization. Now, they failed to recapitalize the bank. At that point, the governor wrote to the minister saying so and advising we would like to close the bank. Then the minister wrote back to say, I order you to close the bank. And the minister had already lost his power to close the bank.
By that
by that time. Because the new act had taken off.
It was already in effect.
Yes. That's the only difference. I mean, this is...
and we agree with you entirely. Entirely.
Thank you, sir.
Entirely. That's the reading of the law, if we had read it candidly.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I agree with the governor on the chronology of events. I do not agree with him on the closure. With respect to the closure, the documents we have speak for themselves. One, the minister said, and I closed it. In his letter, he does not stop there because he said, since no credible plan has been offered by the directors of TFA, I have decided to close the bank. So the decision was taken by the minister. Accordingly, I am directing you to go ahead and close it. And I think that's where the governor said theirs was to pick the padlock. Please ensure that the proper law is concerned. At this point in November 1993, the new statute was in place. And it was only Bank of Uganda to close. And there are processes and procedures for closure. They will tell us. I don't know whether they are processes.
No. Let's do this for a second now. This whole confusion, Mr. Governor, arose out of your responses. It rose out of your responses. You are the one who stated, one, that this bank was never resolved under the Financial Institution Statute. It is in writing by you people. Even the deputy governor, when he was here, he did reiterate it so. And once you say it is resolved under the Financial Institution Statute, the statute is so elaborate on the procedure you take as a bank to close. However, you ran away from that and said, no, we couldn't have taken that process because the law of what we call the Banking Act of 1969. I saw one of the press people writing the Banker Act. It doesn't exist. And I asked you, please quote correctly. It is called the Banking Act of 1969. Gave the minister the powers. So you said, no, we are not the one who did it. It is you. It is the minister who closed. And it is here, it is in writing, you testify. Later on, when you start having a conversation with the committee about it, you say, by the way, it is not us. No, it is not the minister who closed. It is now us. Then evidence, you bring a press statement to contradict the authority of the minister, the assumed authority. Because I think the Right Honorable Minister of Finance, let his soul rest in peace, was under a mistaken view that he had the powers. And I don't know whether the governor would have an argument with me on that one or not. When he wrote that letter, he thought he had the powers under the Banking Act of 1969, which he did not have. About the conclusions, we will discuss it internally, but given the facts, there is no dispute. If legal counsel is bringing me a press statement, this is how we close banks by press statements, I will have a different view, legal.
Mr. Chairman,
can we will not resolve that now. We have the facts we needed. The rest will be for the committee and the conclusion.
Just something simple.
Honorable Bala, just 1 second. That point has been thoroughly interrogated. The conversation may not be making any addition, any value addition. So we let it lie. We are going now to meet internal about it. And we shall resolve. Is there any other issue on TFA Bank which colleagues you would like to raise now? Because we are going to go to some other bank.
Chair, do I take it that the director legal does not know the difference between a press release and the minister's letter of closure?
I said I've closed that issue. Because I don't want I've closed the issue.
With the letter, with the press release or with the letter, you have closed it.
I have closed that issue. Let us, we're going to proceed to, is there any other issue on Tefe Bank which we've not interrogated?
Chair.
And yes, Honorable Mike Tusime, then Engineer Kasabat.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, when you look at the appointment instrument of the auctioneer or the liquidator for that matter, he was not provided with a list of assets for purposes of liquidation. And further contradiction is that list does also not appear in the so-called inventory report. And furthermore, we see a list generated by the liquidator indicating properties that they have returned. So we needed to have struck off the properties returned from the list that had been provided of the properties. And yesterday I remember seeking for a reconciliation of what you had to offer the liquidator to pursue his mandate and what he actually returned. So for us to receive even copies of those land titles or the balance of the titles, they must originate from an original list.
Can you put it as a question so that
I therefore would wish them to provide us with a list of the properties of assets that were handed over to the liquidator so that we can make a reconciliation.
Do you get the question?
Yes, I do get the question. Through the governor, Mr. Chairman, we have been requested to provide the list of the assets that were given to the auctioneer for him to liquidate. That is correct. Yes.
And how did you provide them? We don't just bring a list. We want that communication.
To the liquidator?
Yes.
Handing them officially to the liquidator?
Yes, because what I would find problematic with is just you bring a typed list. Just bring a proper communication from the bank. I say, this is what we are giving you to go and liquidate.
But Chair, we could also find out how did they determine the cost for the 3% you're paying the liquidator plus half the book value. How was that value determined? And even in your letter it says it should be paid before he starts doing the work. We need to know how you arrived at that.
Yep.
So these courses should be selected deliberately and carefully.
Focus on what sells. President Museveni advises institutions of higher learning to teach marketable courses. And 9 students who died in a school fire in Rakai district will be buried today. Also coming up, no holds barred. Sri Lanka's parliament descends into chaos with MPs swinging punches after Prime Minister is voted out of office.
Are you interested in networking with women entrepreneurs across the region, or interested in speaking to a business expert on how to start or grow your business? Rising Woman brings you the biggest business expo ever in East Africa this November. Come check out products and services that business women across the region have to offer. Network, have lots of fun, and learn from the business clinics that will cover topics including taking your business to the next level, selling, embracing social media platforms to grow your business, and juggling business and family. The expo will take place on the 16th and 17th of November 2018 at Hotel Africana People's Space. To enter, simply buy a copy of the Daily Monitor at the entrance. Rising Woman, taking your business ahead. Rising Woman Business Expo is made possible by Daily Monitor in partnership with DFCU's Women in Business Program and Uganda Investment Authority.
Good afternoon, you're welcome. This is Sport Today. My name is Malcolm Sime, and coming up on Friday's edition, Cape Verde's Blue Sharks have checked into Uganda ahead of tomorrow's 2019 AFCON qualifier. Roger Federer is through the semi-finals of the ATP Finals, and James Harden carries Houston Rockets past Golden State Warriors in the NBA. So it's again a action-packed program for this afternoon, so do stay with us if you can.